Okay, so I just wanted to take a moment this morning to announce that I'm establishing a financial fraud task force. We have established similar task forces in other areas, and they've been really effective. We have an organized retail crime alliance. That is an organization that we lead, and we meet generally on a quarterly basis, and we share information with other law enforcement that are dealing with organized retail crime. We share best practices. We share what we're seeing, what's the best approach, what's a good target, and that sort of cooperation was why we were able to have the big bust recently that we did, 6,000 gift cards, $2 million in theft. We also have a similar task force in the context of human trafficking. You may remember I've been giving updates on that. That is STOP, the Statewide Tactical Operations Partnership. The purpose of that is to get law enforcement and those working to fight human trafficking, to get them together and share information. That has also been really helpful. You probably have seen the coverage, or you were part of the coverage probably, of the massage parlor investigation and bust. A lot of that came out of what we've been doing on the human trafficking side with that statewide partnership. And so early on as AG, I remember being approached by some individuals from a bank, an Arkansas bank. One of them's here with me, and this is something that all banks are dealing with, and credit unions, and many others that deal with financial information. But they came to me and they said, "Hey, we're seeing this sort of scam," and it just dawned on me, hey, we need to be reaching out to banks, reaching out to credit unions, reaching out to maybe people that deal with the elderly on financial matters, reaching out to maybe stockbrokers, financial planners, those sorts of folks, because they're on the front lines. They're actually seeing the scams up close. I personally was the victim of a scam that was not online, but it was stolen checks, where they just they changed the checks to be something other than a larger amount and a different payee, and had that happen both personally and with an organization. Well, actually, my campaign, in both instances that had occurred, that's financial fraud, right? And so I just started thinking, we need to, not occasionally or once a year or when a meeting is requested, meet with these folks. I've got credit unions represented back here and banks represented back here. We've got the Credit Union Association and members, Banking Association and members. And I said, we need to do this on an ongoing basis. We need to meet quarterly or as needed, at least quarterly, and share information. And so we're announcing this financial fraud task force today, but we're also going to have our first meeting today. After this press conference is over, we'll get together. We're going to have my consumer protection division talk about what they do on financial fraud day in and day out. And then we're going to hear from the bankers and credit unions. Initially, I reached out to Lori Trogdon of the Banking Association. I said, would this be a good idea? And then she said, absolutely, let's do this. And I said, okay, well, I reached out to Kara at the Credit Union Association, and everybody thought we ought to be talking more with each other. And so that's what we're going to do here. And what do the scams look like? You name it. I mean, the criminals will try just about everything and anything, and as we've seen, people will willingly give their money away to scammers. And so part of this is awareness. What do we need to be doing? What are they seeing? What do we need to be doing to tell the public about these scams? And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that the press plays a key role. I will say when we put out a consumer alert, almost every time some, if not most, of the press outlets carry that. And it's really important because awareness leads to prevention. People never giving their money up. So what are we seeing? Well, someone yesterday, a friend of mine texted me and said he had been having some issues with his Facebook, and some people they knew about his issues with his Facebook, I think because they had done it to his Facebook page. And they said, we can fix this for you. And so they said, it'll be this much. And he sent them money. And it will be this. And he just kept sending them money. You have that. You have other instances where people are taking people's money for tolls they didn't pay. There's all kinds of financial fraud and scams going on. Some of them relate directly to banks and credit unions, where they act as if they are a financial institution, right? But there are many, many others. There's the one that's been going around where people call and say, hey, you didn't show up for your jury duty. And if you don't give a certain amount of money right now, we're going to come arrest you. And then there's a lot now that relate to crypto, where they'll say, oh, by the way, we need you to pay us in crypto. Well, I assure you, I don't know of any courts that are asking people to pay in crypto. They may exist, but I don't know of them. But the bottom line is, whatever these people can think of as a scam, they're using. And so we're going to talk today in this meeting about what we see and how we go about handling this. You may think, hey, financial fraud, that's criminal. Yes, it is. It is criminal. So why does consumer protection in this office primarily handle it and not our criminal investigators and criminal prosecutors? That's a really good question. And here's the answer. The criminal investigators and the criminal prosecutors are involved if they need to be. But in most cases, these scammers are not only not in Arkansas, they may not even be in the country. And so the chances of actually arresting, prosecuting, very slim. Now, if they're here in the state or here in the United States and we can reach them, we can reach out and grab them, that's different. But a lot of these, once that money's gone with a lot of these people, it's very, very difficult to get anybody's money back and difficult to prosecute them. So consumer protection is where this goes first. If they think there's a chance that we can reach out and grab these criminals, then obviously our criminal investigators and criminal division, our prosecutors can be pulled into this. But a lot of the time it's about minimizing the damage when the money's already gone. It is about educating the individuals on the signs that they need to be looking for in the future to make sure this never happens again. And in some cases, and I don't know all the secrets, but we'll talk about it today. In some cases, Shamika, who's one of our rock stars, and others have been able to get money back even in crypto instances. Very hard, very rare. So this is going to be an ongoing conversation, and hopefully, like the other task forces that we have, the human trafficking, and the organized retail crime, we don't want to just announce it and say, never see you again. We want to have iterative check-ins with results. We want to talk about, as we go forward, what the outcomes are, because it's really easy to make an announcement. But the hard work is when the announcement's over, making sure that the effort continues as promised, and making sure that we're actually getting results from it. So that's what today is all about. So once this is all over, we're going to change the tables up. We're going to have a big lunch discussion here. And the way this will work each time we have a meeting, certainly bankers, credit union folks that we invite are welcome to come and tell and share with our folks the best strategies for dealing with this. But what we're really counting on with Kara at the credit union and Lori, the banking association, we are counting on them letting their people, their members and bankers and folks in the credit unions, letting them know that we're doing this each time so that they can come to be a part of the discussion. So this is not a listen to us thing. This is, we're going to listen to them. We want to hear directly from what they're seeing at the banks, at the credit unions, and probably more importantly than the meetings will be the exchange of cell phones and information. And so it's not a formal meeting like your meeting was, Ms. Franklin. So Ms. Franklin came early on and said, hey, we want to talk about this. Well, there was a meeting and had to get it on the calendar and make sure it worked for everybody. And I was there, some others were there. It's much easier, much more effective if we can just always be talking, always be sharing information. So excited to announce this today because I think it's going to help us. And if we hear from the folks behind us, behind me, that, hey, this is what we're seeing, that's going to prompt us to say, hey, maybe Jeff and folks in comms, maybe we need to put a consumer alert out and on this particular issue. And so that's the way this is going to work, and I think it's going to be very useful for us. So thank you all for joining us. You have any questions? Yes, sir.
Hey, Carter Thweet with THV 11. You kind of got into it towards the end, talking about the outcomes and the impact, but I was just wondering if you could go into a little more detail about, the conversations that happen as a part of this task force. If I'm a consumer, like you said, almost everyone sees financial fraud or scams. What impact in the real world, so to speak, do you hope that these conversations will have?
Well, I'll give you an example. If, and this to some degree, I'm glad you asked that because to some degree it counts on you. There's a limited number of people that get our press releases, that look at our social media, that look at our website, that are going to get the information that we put out. But as I said, almost everything that we put out when it comes to consumer alerts, and we do them frequently, and sometimes they relate to disasters, tornadoes, scams, price gouging, those sorts of things. But a lot of times they're relating to a scam like the toll scam. I think we did one or two on that. We did one on the law enforcement related scam where people say, hey, if you didn't come to jury duty or whatever, if you don't pay, we're going to come get you. You and your station and other stations putting that out there on your website, what have you, you're going to give people the opportunity to be informed. So here's the real life impact. Let's say they don't see your story. They don't watch it. They don't have it on the website because you didn't cover it. And they get a scam and they fall prey to it. Versus we put something out, you cover it, they get the scam and they know what it is because they just saw this talked about and they go, I'm not doing that. Well, think about that. If we worked efficiently, don't wait for a quarterly meeting. Someone here says, Tim gave his cell phone out to us in the first meeting, which I did, even before the meeting. Or Brittany or somebody else, hey, we're going to reach out to them and let them know we just saw this today in the bank. Someone else says, we also saw this. So we say, let's do a consumer alert. If we act on that with speed, and you inform people, or others inform people, then you've got prevention as the primary goal there. That's the primary solution, right? You're not trying to unwind a transaction that you're 99% of the time, you're not getting the money back. That's just the way it works. And I know the other day we had an attempted scam that somebody did not fall prey to. It looked like a U.S. number. We traced it back to Brazil. And once we got back to Brazil, there was nowhere to go beyond that. So information, awareness, that's what this is all about. Because then we can get it to you, and you, if you decide, that's your decision, if you decide to tell the public about it, people read it, maybe they won't fall prey.
Can I ask one more? So it would be accurate to say that a large part of this is not just the quarterly meetings, it's all these people with knowledge of this kind of sharing information so that you can, again, all know what's going on and get things out?
When you get as much gray hair as me, you will have learned that no matter what the task is, the foundation is relationships. It's about building relationships and working cooperatively with people, exchanging information. Certainly, I think the formal meetings provide structure and make sure that the focus doesn't fade. But truly, no one up here and no one on our side is going to learn of something that they need to share and say, well, we'll just wait a couple months for the next meeting. No one's going to do that. But I would hope not. I'm going to wait for the next barbecue, lunch. In any event, which is not always a bad idea, but no, they're going to say, hey, let's shoot it over to so-and-so. This is really happening now. And I think that, people text me personally about scams and stuff. And I get the same ones. Anyway, yeah, so I think it's about relationships and building more cooperation.
So I want to ask about, it seems to be most of the focus is on like the bottom up fraud, scammers from out of state, the toll scam, check fraud. Is there going to be any focus on the type of like white collar fraud from within these financial institutions or from the financial institutions themselves?
Look, we are an equal opportunity prosecutor. If anybody has information of illegality going on, absolutely. Now, because this is under consumer fraud, this is more about people interacting directly to the consumer. But certainly, if we have evidence of some high-level or mid-level or whatever person stealing money, we want to know about that too. That's probably not going to come to us through this mechanism, and that definitely won't be a consumer protection. That'll be the guys at the back of the room who are hidden around the corner, Special Prosecutions Division and Special Investigations Division. We have, and I know you do, if you've been keeping up with our press releases, we've had a number of public officials around the state at different levels. I'm thinking, I believe, Horseshoe Bend, and I remember one, I believe, a credit card, where there had been theft via credit card. So we have those sorts of things going on too. This is a little different focus. Also, if it involves a public official as opposed to a banker or something like that, it's probably going under our public integrity section, which has been very active and is currently very active. So we're all for going after those folks too. That's a little different from this focus, although if someone here ever, and I know they won't, but if they do, we would, people could call us with that information regardless. And on a lot of that will involve our federal partners, very closely working with U.S. Attorney's Office on something like that. With a lot of financial fraud, unless it's really, really, really significant in size, it won't reach the FBI threshold or others. Now, the organized retail crime, the 2 million, that had a very active, we were very active cooperating with federal law enforcement, Homeland Security investigations in particular, which is a department of the U.S. Section of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. So it depends on the size of the transactions and what specifically is going on. But yes, we're interested in that. Yes, this is focused on something more consumer oriented.
So when it comes to the toll fraud,
Yeah.
What's the connection with the banks? Is it working with banks to see if there's if someone does get defrauded, they send a $200 credit card transaction to some guy in Brazil that they flag that, or?
Well,
what are
part
you
of
doing?
their role is that they get a lot of the calls on this stuff. People don't know who to call. And a lot of times the money's coming out of their accounts. They may give their check. In fact, I believe the guy, friend of mine who texted me yesterday, I believe one of the asks that they had was, instead of just send us money through the Cash App, they said, can you give us your bank routing and account number, the 9-digit ABA number, whatever. I get that right? He refused to do that. But make no mistake about it, people are going to call the banks often. Now, it may be over a credit card, and some of these banks facilitate credit cards, whether it's through a third-party vendor or through their own bank, whether it's a debit card, whether it's a ACH, withdrawal, whatever. They're calling us, they're calling them. But when their money's gone, a lot of people, the first group they call are the banks and the credit unions. Even if you can't help, you still get the calls. Because it's sort of like, I don't know where to call. They have information that can help us. We have information that can help them. And the other thing is, even if it didn't come out or directly relate to their bank, if there's hearing it for a lot about it, that triggers our need to put out a consumer alert. This is a major blind spot if we ignore what the credit unions and the banks are saying. Okay? Yes, sir. This is not related to that.
Just wondering how this task force will work a little bit differently than the Human Protection Agency.
You mean than the Human Trafficking Task Force? Yeah, in concept, it'll work a lot. It'll work analogously. It'll work similarly. They'll just have a different focus. It'll be different players at the table. Our investigators that focus on this are different than the ones that are. So, for example, the organized retail crime meetings, which have been real successful lately, and the human trafficking stop partnership, those are run out of our criminal investigation division, and we have an investigator who focuses on nothing but human trafficking. We have another that focuses nothing on but organized retail crime. They organize those meetings. They have their network of people. This will be run by our Consumer Protection Division. And so it'll look very similar, but all the players will be different. It's under my office. I guess I'm the commonality between them. But if you get below me deciding to do this, all the players are different. They're different investigators. They have a different role. Different people will be invited, different topics. But we've seen how effective those others have been, and I decided to do this. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate it.